Hello and good morning. I'm Mark Bobo, and welcome to the OSBA Forum. We're very excited to have you with us today. As you'll know, I'm flying solo today, but Dr. McFarland sends her regards in her absence. So as always, we're here today in our commitment as the leading voice in support of public education here in the state of Ohio. I think we can all agree that the best thing happening in public education today is our students. No question about it. Our students and their unlimited potential are why we as leaders and advocates continue to persevere in making sure that each student is given the opportunity to succeed. It's in that pursuit, there are priorities. And I would offer that the most important step in pursuit of academic excellence is the teacher in the classroom. And I want to take this moment to thank every teacher as they head into another year. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for your dedication to your craft and to the students that you serve. Each one of you is appreciated, and know that we support you in your efforts to making education successful for each student. But as we look at the landscape of education, we have seen an exodus, of teachers and administrators leaving education, and we've seen each of our districts being impacted by this in some way, shape, or form. We have to agree it's a real challenge. And so today, as we always want to talk about the most pressing issues in education, we want to talk about teacher recruitment and retention. And we're grateful to have some experts with us today that can help us with this dialogue. So I want to first introduce Dr. Jennifer Kelly, who serves as the Dean of the School of Education at Capital University. Dr. Kelly is a tenured full professor of education and has served on the faculty at Capital since 1999. Her appointment as the first African-American Dean of the Dean of the School of Education at Capital highlights a career of distinguished administrative and service contributions to the university. Most recently, she served as Associate Dean of Clinical Partnerships for the School of Education, where she was instrumental in growing key partnerships with various schools in Central Ohio. We also have Dr. Nisreen Dowd, who's an assistant professor of education, and she also serves as the director of the Capital City Teacher Residency Program. And we're anxious to hear about that. It's an innovative approach to becoming a teacher aimed at diversifying the field and creating a more accessible and equitable pathway for future teachers. Prior to this role, she taught 4th, 5th, and 6th grade in Northern Virginia in Title I inclusive classrooms. And finally, we have Dr. Bradley Conrad, who is the Cotterman Distinguished Endowed Chair and Associate Professor at the Capital University School of Education. He has published several articles in the areas of curriculum, teacher dispositions, culturally responsive pedagogy, perceptive teaching, and the arts in education. In K-12 education, he has been a substitute teacher, high school English teacher, department coordinator, instructional coach, and new teacher mentor during his career beginning in 2001. So welcome to each of you. Thank you all for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Really appreciate it. So as we start the discussion, I always kind of come from my perspective and share, what I feel. When I was growing up, we would be in the classroom together and people would say, what do you want to do for your career? Someone would say a fireman, someone would say a doctor. But there would always be kids that would say, I want to be a teacher, like Mrs. So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so. But I'm not sure if we're hearing that same type of thing from our kids today, and I'm talking, further in their high school careers, I'm not sure how many kids today are really saying, I want to go into education. Now, is that something that I'm just seeing and we're seeing anecdotally? What are you all seeing on the higher ed perspective, from that perspective? What are you all seeing in regards to undergrad? Dr. Kelly, I'd ask you to start us off.
Well, thank you for having us, and this is an exciting topic. And I think what I'm seeing as an individual is a lot of times we see kids that say that. I think they're still saying that, and but I think you talked about exodus. In terms of education, I think what we're seeing is almost this emancipation of freedom of how we can go into education. And so there are different routes. So I think hearing someone say, I want to be a teacher, there are more questions around that and understanding with everything that's going on in education now, with mandates, with salary. And I think now we're in a place in policies and procedures that we're going to see a real shift in the individuals who really want to go into education. So they're still saying, yes, because of this teacher, I want to go into education. And some may say, I want to go into education because I didn't have a good experience, because I want to see more people that look like me in the classroom, or more people who are from my community in the classroom. So I think we're seeing it's a different shift we're seeing, and I know my colleagues see some other things as well.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we are still seeing some students that say, I do want to go into teaching because I've been inspired by somebody that I had. But I think we're also seeing a lot more of the non-traditional students that are saying, I want to go into teaching because I had an inspirational teacher way back when. So where we may not be seeing it from some of our high schoolers, we're starting to see this shift of people who are career switchers more. We're saying, I've been doing this for so long, but that's not really where my passion lies, and I'm finally recognizing that teaching is for me, and I have still been inspired by somebody in my past, or in my educational career.
So I'll take like the sort of researcher's view, right? So the numbers bear out exactly what you're saying. It's cratering how many people are getting into teacher education out of high school. Also, the number of people that are just even want to be teachers in the traditional route, those numbers are still low. We maybe on the ground level we're seeing that certainly, but it's not a desirable profession. And anecdotally, I'm hearing even parents, when kids are saying, "Hey, I want to be a teacher," the parents will say things like, "Well, no, I'm not paying for college if you go become a teacher," which is it's a terrible state of affairs because of and we won't go down the rabbit hole of why, but it's become a less desirable profession because of a number of different things, and it's the number one cause, the way that the profession is viewed, the way that the lack of autonomy is the number one reason teachers leave the profession. And you know the numbers, 50% within 3 years, 3 to 5 years.
And so I'm hearing, some of the things that I believe to be true, but I'm also hearing that there's this shift in regards to how people come into the field, and they're coming maybe after they've done other things.
Yes.
I came into education, I would say, in the second half of my professional career. So I totally get that perspective. I do want to deal with a little bit of the rabbit hole, though.
Okay.
When you all hear from undergrads or even hear from people who are in the field now, what are they saying are some of the challenges that they see? You mentioned policy, you mentioned salaries. What are some of the challenges that they are seeing that would maybe prevent or maybe consider them doing something else outside of education? What are you all hearing?
I think one of the things that's really important to understand in terms of policy is the licensure exams that individuals have to pass to become a teacher. So that's something, as you're looking at these traditional students coming into the program, that they come in, but they don't actually graduate with the degree because of some of the policies within the university and within the state because of licensure requirements. And so I think that's important to understand. So I just wanted to mention that as you talk about some of the other policies.
Yeah, and I think Brad mentioned one of the biggest ones, right, is this autonomy. We've taken a lot of the pedagogy of teaching out of it for teachers, and that's something that we're still teaching them, right? We're still teaching them, you are the one that knows your students, you are the one that's developing the pedagogy, developing the curriculum, developing the instruction based on the needs of your particular students. And we're seeing this shift a lot in schools of not allowing teachers to do that and taking that away from them. And teachers feel it, right? When they're handed a lot of textbooks or they're handed a lot of these programs and saying, you need to follow this script to a T, I'm no longer getting that autonomy and that freedom as a teacher that I've been taught in my educational program.
Yeah, I got to go down the curriculum road. So I'm a curriculum guy, right? I've written a lot about curriculum. We teach class together where students learn how to, the different approaches. We use my book as a textbook on the 5 different approaches to curriculum design. So you have an intention behind what you do and why you do it. Now what's interesting is there's also a field component. And they go out and we have them look at different things, including curriculum. So during the time that they'll look at, specifically at curriculum, we're seeing a lot of scripted, no autonomy. When we teach the student teaching seminar, we have the EdTPA, right? And they have to write a small set of lessons and then teach it. A lot of times they have to teach right from the script. It totally deprofessionalizes teaching. It takes the creativity and the joy out of what I think is probably the most important and most powerful piece that the teachers have is the curriculum and what happens in the classroom. It's completely and utterly disempowering. And for our teachers that are in the classroom and even our students, it's disheartening. I've often said, like, we should just hire starving actors for $10 an hour and just have them read the script. They're way more interesting than I am. But there's a lot more. The thing is people act as though curriculum writing isn't some sort of an art or a science. It's both. And I think that gets lost in the shuffle because of the various policies that we've talked about, from teaching to the test and standardized curricula and so on.
Yeah. So let me push you a little bit on that.
Yeah.
So I understand that perspective of, some of the teachers are asked to teach to a script.
Yes.
But doesn't that also confirm or determine that the student will get the appropriate information that they need in regards to from that curriculum?
Kind of, but not.
Sometimes.
Kind of, but not.
Okay.
And I also would argue very strongly, and I've actually written about this, it is the antithesis of culturally responsive teaching. Because when a scripted curricula is written, it's written by someone outside of the context of the community, the school, etc. They don't know the kids in the room. They don't know the needs of the community. They don't know anything about that context. And my argument would be, that's not even my argument. That is the opposite of what culturally responsive is. Because to be culturally responsive and to be is to bring in those assets. So it sort of puts education in a little bit of a vacuum, and it ignores the bigger context, and more importantly, for kids that are more resistant, right? And this is honestly, we see a lot of scripting in like urban schools, right? We see a ton of that, and behind the idea that we want to make sure that everybody gets the same, information, education, etc. But the problem is it's not interesting a lot of times, right? Because it doesn't take into account the interests of the kids in the room. And then again, the teacher gets a good teacher, knows that. They know their kids, they know what's interesting, and they know how to pull on those levers to write curriculum that's interesting and engaging and enlivening.
I think it's finding a balance, right, for teachers. I do agree. There are some great programs out there. There are some great scripted programs, but it's this idea that we do need to find a balance, because those scripted programs don't know my kids. They don't know my kids in my classroom.
Yeah.
They don't know the whole child. They know this is what they should know by the end of first grade. This is what they should know by the end of second grade, which is great. But that also doesn't tell me what has been happening with Johnny at home for the last year, and doesn't take into account all of those other things that go within teaching the entire child. And there's no differentiation as much as we really want to see. So we need to find this balance between, I'm going to use these scripts and these programs, but I'm also going to be okay with this teacher saying, this is not for this particular group of students, because that's not where they are developmentally.
Good point. I'm a little biased. I came out of high school administration. My entire family is made up of teachers and administrators and things of that nature. So everything that you're talking about is clicking all the buttons in my head.
Yeah.
Right? And at the same time, we're looking at an industry, if I could say that respectfully, that has these challenges, and we're still trying to figure out how do we get people to get more involved. Because at the end of the day, I still believe the teacher makes the biggest difference in the student's life as far as academic achievement. So Dr. Kelly, I would ask you, before we get into the weeds in regards to the Capital City Teacher Residency Program, did I get it right?
You did. Okay.
Yeah.
From your perspective as a dean of the School of Education at Capital University, tell me why this program is so important to you.
I think because it gives this, it's an alternative for people who are working. And they're people who are in the community. And Columbus City Schools, that's what the program is for. Columbus City Schools initially is, they're teachers who are teacher assistants, substitute teachers who want their own classroom. And they have not had that opportunity. And I think at Capital University, we have the resources, we have student success, that support that some of those individuals need, the one-on-one, because any university can do this. But I think this particular program has taken the time to sit with teachers and administrators in Columbus City School to develop a curriculum that is instrumental in having students succeed.
Yeah.
And I'm actually a substitute teacher in Columbus City Schools, and I do my Friday, Monday half days. And I talk to the teachers, I talk to subs, I talk to teacher assistants, and they want to go back, but they don't know how.
I see.
And so that's why a program like this is so important, to kind of sit with them, looking at their transcript, because they're all over the place, and they can kind of talk about that in terms of no formal college to some have bachelors, some have some college. So I think a program like this at Capital is very timely in terms of our mission and access and opportunity in Central Ohio. I mean, we're really looking at our mission at Capital and how we can fill a need for the community. And we have a long history of working with Columbus City Schools. And it's just an exciting program moving forward.
So, Dr. Dow,
Yeah.
Capital City Teacher Residency Program.
Yeah, well done.
Tell me all about it.
Yeah.
But specifically, I want you to deal with the aim and the goal of the entire program.
Yeah. Well, there's short-term goals and long-term goals. So I can start with the short-term, and I'll let Brad kind of share a little bit about some of those longer-term goals. And Dr. Kelly mentioned a lot of them, right? It's this idea of creating this accessible route to education for people that traditionally couldn't do it, right? It's hard for students to come in and say, okay, I'm going to take this amount of time off of work to take classes during the day, because a lot of programs don't offer all these courses after work or on weekends or at nighttime, right? So it's hard for people. So we wanted to create a program that really created access, created an equitable route for people to come in, and we call it a labor of love, because it's been a labor of love for a year and a half at this point, maybe even 2. I don't know how long it's been, but it's been it's been an intensive labor of love. And I think the aim is really to create this Grow Your Own program with Columbus City Schools. And we call it, I mean, when we say Grow Your Own, it is a Grow Your Own. It has been such a collaborative effort with them. Everything has been a team effort. We have developed the curriculum together. We've developed the route together. We're developing even more things together, and it's a work in progress, right? Thanks to the Ohio Department of Higher Education, right? We got this grant to kind of start the funding of it, which has been wonderful, and it has really helped us kind of develop the program before we just said, here, go, because we didn't want to just create a program that just gave people licensures. We wanted to create a program that gave them a licensure, but also taught them how to be really impactful, effective teachers in Columbus City Schools.
Really
There's a
important.
difference, right?
Yes.
Because when we start talking about the retention and wanting to keep teachers, we're not just trying to put a body in a classroom.
Right.
We're trying to put a really good teacher in the classroom. So we wanted to take the time to really develop the program with Columbus City, so that it was, I'm creating these very impactful, effective teachers. And more than anything else, I think it's really important for all of us sitting on this stage, is we want to diversify the field, right? We're still not seeing enough diversity in our classrooms, especially in some place like Columbus City Schools. So we want to create a pathway for people who usually felt a lot of barriers to getting into school. And we're seeing people that are coming with GPAs that are kind of low, and they're calling us and saying, well, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it because my GPA is pretty low. And we're talking about them being in school years ago, right? Probably for some of them decades ago.
Yeah.
And they're not the same person they were decades ago that a number on like a GPA tells us they are. And so we really wanted to break down as many barriers as we could. So that's really the aim of the program, honestly, when we kind of funnel it down to those kind of bones.
Yeah. And then, like, sort of as another layer to that, there's a couple layers. One is the other shortage that we see is subs, right? So Columbus City has the largest shortage of subs. So the idea, the way we devised the program, and I think this is one of the innovative angles, is while they're in taking classes, they're subbing and getting paid. So that's part of how we help fund the program, right? So that's filling some of that need. They're in the school, and then we're writing a curriculum that uses that as an asset, kind of back to that curriculum writing in context and why that matters. We're using that as an asset and as part of the assignments they do and the reflections they have. So that's a big piece of it. I think the other layer, back to Nazreen's point, is we're sort of trying to close the loop. And let me explain a little bit what I mean by that. So we're talking about teacher shortage, right? Huge problem, no question about it. No one's pushing back on that. Well, it's terrific to bring, I love some of the programs that are out there to try to bring teachers into the profession. But the problem is once they get there, if you do nothing else, you're putting a Band-Aid on a gash. you are not, they're going to leave in 3 to 5 years, half of them at least. And we know that the numbers bear that out. So we want to close that loop of once they're in there, how do we ensure that they're thriving? Right, so and there's a number of ways that's taken into account, like, you know, because they are ensconced in the community. That's a big part of, like, where are you teaching, who are you teaching, and that's part of the curriculum. They also get that experience, right? Yeah. So they're kind of like, they know what they're not walking into something they didn't expect.
Right.
Which happens a lot of times, like with programs like, and well intended, but programs like Teach for America. A lot of these folks walk into schools and they're like, what is this? You know, and they're not prepared. They're literally not prepared, like at many levels, but let's not go there. The other piece is coming all the way around is what are we doing then after those 2 years? So one of the things that we're going to bring in is I started a foundation, nonprofit with some colleagues out in Denver called the Center for Teacher Growth and Renewal. And we're going to open an Ohio chapter. And the whole idea behind it is how do we help teachers thrive and thrive within the profession and help sustain themselves. So it's professional development that's holistic for teachers by teachers. And I think by incorporating those kinds of things helps, like, where's your passion? What are you struggling with, right? I think those kinds of things are really, they're making an impact already. Like one of our participants who's a teacher out in Colorado said, it was like coming to a teacher day spa. I felt valued. I feel like I can go back into the classroom. I'm like, it was really like remarkable. And we want to bring that to this program so that they stay.
Yeah, I think you hit a lot of things there because as much as you talk about the ones that stay for 3 to 5 years, you have to at the other end, we have teachers who've done this for a long time and they're experiencing burnout.
Yeah,
you know? And so that teacher spa could be, you know, definitely helpful because, you know, as wonderful as our intentions are, we can't determine what happens at every school building where these teachers will be. But to have outlets and opportunities to be able to go to replenish, refresh, and be motivated again to go back into the classroom, I think that's really important. Let me ask this, for the program right now, kind of the technical side, how many students are you all working with, how many potential teachers are you all working with right now to be in this pipeline for retention and recruitment?
We just got to meet them in person yesterday, so it's a very timely question. We had an all-day orientation, and I left. I left on such a high note.
Just one of the best days of my professional career was yesterday.
I would completely agree. So currently we have between 18 and 21 students that are enrolled in the program, and we're seeing such a wide range of students. We're seeing students who are just coming out of their associate's degree at places like Columbus State, who's also been an integral part of just the development of this program and how we utilize that partnership as well. But we're also seeing people that have been in Columbus City as instructional assistants for 20 plus years, right? And the passion is deep there, so deep. And I think those are the teachers that are going to be so impactful because, like Brad said, like they have been there for 20 plus years. They know exactly what they're getting into, and they are so excited to be able to do it on the other side. And a lot of them have been teaching.
I see.
As an instructional assistant, you do a lot of teaching, and I think sometimes we don't value our instructional assistants as much as we should because they do sometimes more than some of our teachers do in these classrooms, and they are able to build those relationships way stronger than some of our classroom teachers are able to. But the passion runs so deep, and just hearing their stories yesterday of how much this is going to kind of benefit them and allow them to finally take that leap to becoming that classroom teacher is going to be so great to just listen to and hear in the next couple of years.
And one thing I want to say is that a lot of them said how impactful their teachers were. I mean, I think that's one thing I heard a lot yesterday, that partnership with their teachers and their teachers really even encouraging them in that partnership. So that's really important, I think, with Columbus City Schools, the teachers that are working with those teacher assistants.
Absolutely.
And I think I got a little emotional. We were going through the nuts and bolts of like, here's what it's going to cost, and we brought in all these people to talk with them from the university and from Columbus City. And we're like, all right, and you're going to get an iPad, and you're going to get this, and we're going to pay for your books, and we're going to do this, and it's going to cost you this much. And one of the students said, this feels just too good to be true. I can't believe it. I feel like I won the lottery.
Wow, that's great.
It was like I got like emotional. It was incredible.
So allow me to kind of take a wide view of this. Very excited to see this in Columbus City. and of course, one of our members here at the association, so we're very excited to see this program. But pulling it back, we have well over 700 districts, ESCs, and things of that nature. So here I am, I might be a smaller district, may not necessarily have a university partnership right now. What would you suggest to how to get something like this started or even emulated in my district where I'm starting from scratch? I have the same problem, or same need, excuse me. I have a teacher shortage. How would I get something like this started and generated at my local district? Any suggestions at all?
Call us.
That's the first one.
It's replicable.
It is.
Speak to that.
No, go for it.
Yeah, it's totally replicable, and we want to. That's our goal. We want to make this program wildly successful, so that we can take the show on the road to other districts across the state, across the country. It is completely replicable. It's really about getting the players at the table, I think, is where you start, right? Where you got to look at the localities, and I know, like, we're thinking like rural even. So rural districts tend to be a lot significantly smaller than Columbus, obviously. But we're in, like, where can we geographically bring a few of them together? Where are the universities around there that can help, develop this program and getting them to the table together, because it has to be done together. It can't be like the university comes up with an idea and goes, here, we're going to put this program on you and we'll fix you, right? That's not. It's dishonors the district, honestly. And it ignores their needs, and I think, but it's totally doable.
And I think what came out Friday, I don't know if you saw the announcement from the governor about teacher apprenticeships. And I mean, there's an application process, and I think Capital has been a leader in terms of preparing for this coming. I think we can see the future, right? And I think the team at Capital has really shown Ohio how you can do this for the teacher apprenticeship model, and it comes out of working with schools and districts working together. So you already have that happening, but the uniqueness of this program is how it was developed, the courses, and looking at existing courses, making them online, having those conversations. And I think that apprenticeship piece, where the Capital City Teacher Residency can grow. So you're looking at not just districts and universities, but it could be a consortium of districts that are in those areas, and having them come together to do an apprenticeship program, and you can talk to ODHE and some of their individuals there for that. But I think Capital's program of how that was developed is so important, and having mentor teachers. Some of the things they put in their program is exactly what they're asking for the apprenticeship. And so we already have that model ready to go for whatever those districts. So districts and schools have certain needs in terms of, I mean, everyone, intervention specialists with special ed or science, whatever those specific needs are, you can focus on those needs. So I think a program like Capital can go in and say, this is how we did this. Invite them to talk about that, and their consultants, different roles. So we're really at a really good trajectory in terms of Ohio and what they want to do with programs like this, adult populations, people we know who are going to stay. They've already proven they're going to stay in the programs because they've been there for 20 years. And I've seen it in a community. I mean, there are people, we have huge communities, especially urban settings, with even people who have volunteered for years. I used to do dialogues in Columbus and certain areas, Linden, different areas, and we did dialogue. And in those dialogues, when I would have parents come, grandparents, I even had one of the city officials came, just having conversations. What do you want to know more about education? At the time, it was Common Core. We were talking, they didn't understand Common Core. And I just did a really basic, dialogue. But I think it's really important to see what those communities need. The people who can stay in those communities, they see them in their community, the kids see them. It's a win-win.
Yeah, I think, and as you look at different ways, we're solutions based, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And so, the problem has been identified, and what you all have brought today is a solution to that issue that can be replicated.
Yeah. Oh,
which
absolutely.
which is very important for our membership, because we're the school board association, and our school board members are watching us and wanting to know, how do we address this problem, and what you all have offered today is a way that could possibly work for every district that's here in the state of Ohio.
And I challenge every district to literally have a person that's assigned to, whether it's a program like this or mentorship or the apprenticeship program, they're the person who's running that as a coordinator or director for a program like this, to work with universities, and especially the apprenticeship, because it's kind of already in place. They're starting that to
And it's basically
devote money and
synonymous with
funding.
residency.
right, exactly, residency, exactly what it is.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
And I think one of the biggest things, I don't have actual data on this, but one of the biggest things that I think has come out of this, it's a breath of fresh air, honestly. And because teaching has had, we harp on this, like, there's a teacher shortage. People don't want to go into teaching. Nobody wants to do it anymore. It's a not desirable profession anymore. And what we're seeing is such a breath of fresh air, because we're hearing people that are saying, I've been wanting to do this forever, and I just haven't found a program that's suited for me, my needs, right? It's this idea that there are actually a lot of people that want to be teachers. They just can't find the avenue to do it anymore. And financially, cost is not, I mean, educational costs, higher education,
Yes.
that continues to increase, right? Which means even more people are saying, I definitely can't do this now.
Right.
But we're trying to offer this way of, I can keep my position, or I can keep an income flow while I pursue something that is so important to me.
That's one of those many barriers, right, that we're trying to get rid of. I would say a couple of things. How do I want to say this? So I think the resident, I was said flippantly before, kind of like, oh, call us, but we really seriously mean we will help anyone. All of us are in this, like just about every teacher ever, right? Because we want to make a difference in the lives of kids, in the lives of teachers, etc. So that's where the labor of love comes from, I think. The other piece I did want to add is, we've talked a lot about non-traditional students, but it's also the grow your own. The other layer of this is we're working with the kids in K-12, and the kids early on. We want to start talking to them. We're working with the Teacher Academy, right? And kids that are like maybe not knowing they want to be a teacher, and we want to pipeline them in. So this is where our partner at Columbus State comes into play, because of the Columbus Promise. When Columbus City School kids graduate, they get 2 years free. Right, so they funnel through there. We have an articulation agreement. We've worked very closely with Columbus State. Their curriculum aligns with our curriculum, so by the time they're done, they're ready to jump in.
Wow.
And they are going to become capital city teacher residents or apprentices or whatever we're going to call it. It doesn't matter, because it's the same thing. But then, and the really cool part is, so I get excited. So Columbus State is now working with Columbus City to get them in the classroom as early as like year 1.
Oh, wow.
So they will have conceivably been not only come up in that community and in that district, but been in the schools for 4 years by the time they're ready to get hired.
Wow.
Which is
That's
amazing.
powerful. Yeah, that's very powerful.
It goes back to what you started with, right? The like, I want to become a teacher. We're not seeing it as much in high school anymore. So that's part of the long-term goal of the entire program, right? Is when we say grow your own, we mean we want to take them from Columbus City School students to Columbus City School teachers, right? So that's where we see that real grow your own, that meaning. That is the meaning of grow your own. You're developing these students who then come back to the district as future teachers. And it's reminding them in those high school years that this is attainable, I can do this, and here's my pathway already laid out for me, so that they can see that it is something that they can achieve, and it is possible within those 4 years that I would have gone to school, and a lot of it can be paid for, if not all of it, at the time that you are done, right?
Exactly.
So it becomes way more, we go back to this accessible piece, and this equitable piece, it becomes way more accessible and way more equitable for so many more students who are in the Columbus City School District and beyond, once we kind of grow it, right, past just Columbus City Schools.
I think that's what's most powerful. Grow your own, literally meaning I'm a local student, and I can stay in that pipeline and help my local community. I'm dedicated to it, and I want to make a difference here. And I think that's what's powerful about the potential of this program. And again, for our membership that's listening, I think this offers hope. There's another opportunity that we can address this issue and hopefully begin to bring some resolution to it, one small step at a time. You know, definitely not going to happen overnight, but I see this as a potential. So, Dr. Kelly, Dr. Dow, Dr. Conrad, thank you all for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much for having us.
Truly appreciate this dialogue and conversation. And as always, we hope that you have been benefited by the time we've shared together. Again, here at OSBA, we want to make sure that you're informed about the great things that are happening in public education. And also, as we said, we want to be solution-based, bring you information that can help you continue to lead in your district. So have a wonderful Tuesday, and thank you for being here at the OSBA Forum.